yeah, women from the grassroots always walking in step with Prema, you know, and they always got what um, what Prema was saying, her vision, and you know, and they not only got her vision, they accelerated her vision. And I think that was just something just so beautiful about and is beautiful about SSP, that the women are running with the vision, and honestly, I'm still playing catch up with them. Yeah, so that's one thing. So that was Prema for me on the quintessential social entrepreneur, right? Always ticking, always thinking, moving to the next big idea, while we mortals were just scrambling around behind her, you know, honestly. Then there was Prema, who was the quintessential Sakhi, right? Just many, many mad nights of conversation with her. I loved the fact that she could come down to your level and engage with you, right? Because, you know, experiences, and she was just very fond of young people. I've seen her interacting with my nephew who interned with her, and he was just very young, 21, 22, and he came from New York with all these buzzing ideas and was completely smashed when he went to SSP. Right, so it was just for him an inside out journey. He was just turned inside out because, you know, he was from this MBA school, he was buzzing and he thought he's going to straight in SSP and blah blah blah, and just went there and just came back, I think, a different person. But the fact that you know, she could spend time with him, have a drink with him, and just talk to him at his level, I think just made Prema very special. And that for me is how I will always remember her. Our mad shopping trips, our absolutely mad plans. We were constantly planning holidays, whether they came up or they didn't come up, right? But we were always planning holidays. And I just think of Prema also because of her generosity of contacts. She would never ever keep contacts to herself. And Manisha, you and I discuss this very often, that she's one of the world's biggest connectors. She'll just connect you to people she knows, and she was able to understand where you were struggling and who would be the right fit for you at that time. So she was never cagey about her contacts. She never kept them to herself. She was open. And I don't know how many people know this, but she was a brilliant artist, a really brilliant artist. I remember we went to Jodhpur together and we were at the fort, and she just sat there and she was sketching, and I still have some of her sketches. So she was that, you know, so she had all that going. And I think somewhere along the line, she lives in each woman in Latur, each woman in Osmanabad, and in the villages that you and I have traveled together, Manisha. So, and all of them, I was hearing them speak. I don't understand Marathi so well, but the emotion, I was getting the emotion. So she lives in all of them. And I think that's what we all have to remember and we all have to celebrate.
Thank you, Payal. Thank you for bringing Prema back to this room. She did have an impact on us in many ways, and yeah, we have. Thank you very much, Payal. I'm actually sort of just going by friends I see around the room. May I ask Chetna, thank you for joining. I know that you've perhaps just landed right straight from the airport here in Delhi. So maybe we could have Chetna. You both have, I mean, you both have known each other for the longest time. You've worked in the same arena. And I remember Chetna once saying that I have never known anyone who has given so much of her entire life in every being and in every way to rural women. Chetna, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, so first of all, Manisha, thanks for organizing this. And I know yesterday we got the information and your promptness in doing this. And so actually, I've known Prema since 1981. That is and it was in Mumbai. Both of us born, I think Prema also grew in Mumbai. I don't know about her like childhood or something, but we were together on the forum of slum dwellers in Mumbai, and that's how first time I met her. And then after Latur earthquake, I got the information that Prema has left Mumbai and she's working in Latur. And by that time, I also had left Mumbai and I was in Maswad. So then I met her at Latur, and she was working with the communities which were devastated by the earthquake. I would just like to share the important aspect I saw in Prema was that how from Mumbai slum dwellers, working with slum dwellers, to the Latur and setting up of SSP, Swayam Shikshan Prayog. I mean, before that, Prema was in Spark. And I mean, I don't know technicalities, but SSP was formed when she came in Latur and Usmanabad area during the earthquake. And so we met during that time, and her ideas of working in the disaster, I was amazed by the shift, and then the whole, I mean, taking that work and working with the government on the scale she was working in with the Maharashtra government. This is, I'm talking like Latur earthquake, which is more than 20 years back, and or even more. So that quality of Prema, I would say that quality of Prema always attracted me. Even when Prema was working on supporting the whole on microfinance. She had a company, and then when she decided that the NGOs are not, this is a not platform for the NGOs, either you register with the RBI or you work in a partnership. And then she decided that Monday she can take over, other companies can take over the loan portfolio, but she would, those decisions, I found that Prema had this capacity of taking such decision, going ahead and finding out the ways forward. That actually attracted me, which I saw with in Prema. And also that the first time when we had a discussion on, my battery may go off, but I'm just saying that she started talking about the climate change issue, particularly after Latur earthquake itself. I mean, she was for me the first person who talked about these things, and at a grassroots level, not because it has been published in some global magazine, or not because the global platforms or conferences are talking about, but, and the most important aspect I saw was the relation to the grassroots and grassroots communities. That always attracted me. One interesting part I saw with Prema was that, and I used to laugh and say that, Prema, you are a Kharoos teacher, is that twice or thrice we were on airport, and she would see child like, playing on the escalator, or she would immediately go there and say like, no, don't play that. This is not right. you may hurt yourself. And I would say, like, Prema, their parents are sitting there. And she would say that they don't realize what can happen to them if some accident happens. And I used to tease her that you are a khadus teacher, that you're not allowing the adventure of the kids. But it was such a candid personality that came out from her when I saw her with that, was that how this whole, like, taking care of everybody, right? That is the one thing which, and with the team of SSP, I always saw that Prema brought in. And the last thing, one I would like to say that when Bajaj team came to Mandeshi, you know what they said, and I find it a very important statement, that प्रेमाताईशी बोलायचं असेल ना तर आम्ही 2 वेळा विचार करून बोलतो. If we have to talk with Prema, even being a funder, we think twice and then ask a question. I think that that was a sign of very, braveness, that, funders also think that way in the sector, because generally you don't find such qualities, or I would say such braveness. So yeah, Manisha, I find like the wisdom, there would have been so much in her wisdom, which I always feel like I have not been able to get from her, and will be missing that wisdom. Yeah, so thanks, Manisha.
Thank you so much, Chitna. And you really got that, that bit about being the caring teacher. I think all of us have been scolded a couple of times for not taking care, for working too much, for not eating properly, for getting too hectic up. She would always say, yeah, Manisha, if you don't chill, this is not going to work out like this. Why don't you relax? It's not, yeah. So she had that whole caring piece. And actually, in one of the platforms that she had organized, I was moderating a session, and there was a funder who had told me, see, this was in front of 200 people, he had said, but see, when you work with Prema and SSP, you hit the ground running, right? There is no cushioning for you. You get, Prema teaches you the lessons, the hard way. And Prema was sitting right in front, and all of us had a hearty laugh. But you're right. I mean, she used to be. She used to working with her used to be an interesting experience for funders. Just on that note, Reshma, I know you are not a funder, but I know that you're a great supporter and and you believer actually in the SSP model, you and your team. Reshma, we were supposed to be here today for a very similar but a different session, right? It was really about how to launch groundswell of rural women who can address rural needs and earn for themselves and emerge as role models. And I think in many ways we were going to be talking about so many principles, that SSP and Prema have lived. And Reshma, very, very thankful that you're here with us for this session. So we'd love to hear from you of how you as a funder and how you as a friend and how you as a person who's very passionate about this sector remember Prema.
Manisha, I'm feeling very cheated. I'm feeling very cheated because I had to chase Prema, right, for months and months over the pandemic, because we knew of SSP, we knew of the work. We always knew that, we would work with them, someday. And, when, and in fact, in 2020, when we launched our, Women for Water program, I remember I have notes from that session, and, I had written down that we will work with SSP, right? It was just there that, the 3 organizations, and I knew that, and our paths hadn't crossed till then. And then there was this, she loved the chase. And I think this was her special treatment for funders, right? So you had to go through like a couple of, gatekeepers before you kind of got to her. And it's quite interesting. I remember our first conversation, and, Prema was probably prepared to give, yet another funder a bit of a, what was it called? A reality check or or whatever. And I remember asking her, I said, what are you going to do about your organization? Surely you don't want to do it for the next 25 years. And I don't think Prema used to be at a loss for words too often, but I know that at that instance, she took a bit of a pause and she looked at me and I said, I'm sorry, but we come with the tag of a corporate funder. But one of the key things that we've always found fascinating is, how are you, creating, longevity for your institution and what you've created, because the work itself is so powerful. She made sure we read tomes. So, she kind of flooded us, the team flooded us with documents, reports. I'm sure, Manisha, you and your team were culprits because you've written those really detailed documents that had to be read through as well, right? So we did all of that. And but I remember that it was a very disarming conversation after that, right? And so much so that when we went for a field visit, Prema said, I'm not showing up. This is my team. These are my people. This is how we do work. Nothing is going to be sanitized. This is what it is, right? And so interestingly, I think she wasn't even, and this was really new for us, right? Because, typically you're taken through a guided tour during field visits. And this was just open season, wherever we wanted to go, whoever we wanted to meet, whatever conversations we wanted to have. And I think that's really where, what she's created, it kind of hit us hard, right? I've been doing, I've been meeting organizations for the last 20 odd years in the sector. To something that Payal said, very rarely do you see the founder really living and thriving as a value system, right down to the communities. Because the cult of personality, unfortunately, makes it very hard for anyone else to be like them. And I think every single, woman we met from the community during that visit, every single, person in their team that we met, it was absolutely rare. And it hit us hard at many levels, because we realized really how far the sector is, from where Prema had built an institution, so that I think is what really hit us very hard. And then after that, I think the discussions that we had with her were really about how do we, take the enormous responsibility that she held as the founder of SSP, how do we share that with her? How do we help her, not just do a program with us, but the program could be a means to an end. And that's why I am feeling very cheated, because after a very long time of, doing all kinds of programs with all kinds of organizations, it finally felt that, here's how we could, do path-breaking work together. But I think that she's left behind a very powerful legacy in her institution, and the people will take it forward. They will carry it forward. So yes, I'm feeling very deprived of having been with her, by her side, as we, take SSP through this journey. But I'm also very grateful that in her own very quiet way, she, demonstrated what, being very powerful, not just in yourself, but towards a cause can be, right? And I, as I see this sector, I realize that archetype of leadership is very rare, right? And we didn't see enough of her. We didn't hear as much of her as we do typically of, leaders in the sector. But I have a feeling we're going to be talking about her for a long, long, long time to come. So yeah, I we'll have to figure out how to do this without her. I don't know how, but I think we'll do this with her team and with the institution and with all the phenomenal women, who've come and who've emerged as a result of 25 years of her, incredible will and grit. So thanks, Manisha.
Thank you, Reshma. It's just so beautiful. And yeah, we'll have to take her legacy forward. I think otherwise, she'll shout at us from wherever she is. She'll show up and she'll hold us, she'll give us a scorecard. I think we have to take this forward. And Reshma, this people in this room who have been together in a journey, and Prema was a very, very important part of the accelerator. When we were designing this accelerator, we did a series of calls and interviews, and Prema's was the first interview we did, and she was very tough with us. She said, "Look, we will be part of this accelerator only if there is action and collaboration." And there have been, and I think all of us together will do something, that sort of speaks to Prema's dream and vision. We have many people. I know that many of you have spoken. I'd like to just open up the space. I think we should open up the space now, but I do know that Sanjeev ji is here with us. And Sanjeev ji, you've been a partner in many, many ways. So you've worked with Prema and her team. So, if you want to share something, but otherwise we'll just open this up, and we'll really also after that love to hear from Neelam and Yashveer, from Ashoka, who have really, Ashoka has loved Prema, Prema has loved Ashoka. So we'd love to hear from Ashoka too. Sanjeev ji.
Yes, Manisha, this is the moment I could recall a lot of things. And these are personalities from where you get inspired. All of us get inspiration, and that's all of us require that. So when we are discussing about this whole co-trust and partnership, I found one enthusiasm that is very infectious to every new idea, taking it, how it will happen, and the kind of questions he asked was I think it's a once upon a time kind of thing, because normally when somebody talks about GOAT, we had a fair amount of idea. But when somebody talks about empowering through GOAT, then you have to think around how this all will happen. So I recall those conversations in our first meeting with Prema ji, and we met at various platforms, various times. But I like the way she went into the deep-rooted questions. And this whole, everybody get impressed by the kind of work she has done. And working in last 6-7 years in Maharashtra through our team, we always at every platform, you go to any organization, any platform, one name will be common. And of course, Chetna ji is also here. Two names is very common when you talk about women, empowerment, banking, enterprises. And I found everywhere she has against the same respect. So, personal level, it's lost because I had to learn a lot. Where we are, I think that was the right moment. I would have learned how to empower this Pasusaki on a next level. So it's a personal loss, and I would say the whole thing we did, perhaps there were personalities from which you can learn and fine tune it. But yeah, I think she will guide from wherever she is. She must be listening, and people say there are another language, not only verbal, you can connect person anywhere. And spirited, such souls, divine souls never die. So I believe strongly she has not gone somewhere, maybe listening from, just visibility has gone. Will not see the face, but she will be with us. And wherever we go and whatever we work, perhaps a part of it, I would like to credit if Pasusaki works on that model, what she suggested me, I would I mean, must get that credit to her because she made to understand how the empowerment will happen from our work to that level. So thank you, Manisha. It's very special at this moment. And from yesterday itself, when I got your call, I'm not feeling well. A lot of questions come in the mind, divinity, this spirituality, all these has been somewhere resounding in my thought process. So she made me thought in the first question, and perhaps now she is making me think more after all these news. So she will be with us. That's my belief. Thank you, Manisha.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji. Leela, would you like to share something?
Thank you so much, Manisha. I really appreciate the space today. So very special. I've always been indebted. That is through Accelerator, I got to know her more and more. And I feel cheated, like Reshma saying that, because since the day I've arrived in Ashoka, I've been trying to meet with her and I'm waiting for a space where she's well and available. But I think I'll have to just go back to the SSP team and the Accelerator group to kind of leverage her collective, the wisdom that he has basically shared with the cohort and everyone. A couple of things I want to just quickly share. One, that's always struck me, her quickie sense of humor, whether it's WhatsApp banter and it's about responding to Manisha's memes. And I was like, here's this larger than life leader, and it's completely okay with, us responding to these memes. And it's amazing that she was fine in that sense. There wasn't about, oh, please, you should mind your space. I am this person, Prema, that you thought about. So it's amazing that someone could be like that. And I really revered that around her. The second is, around her vision. So all my life, I've spent 20 years doing livelihoods, and there was always these counterintuitive conflicts between either you could build a super profitable entrepreneurial, hi-fi glamorous business, or you could do empowering women at the grassroots kind of a work. And I was like, but how about these two? Do these ever marry? And I've even done thesis on it and whatnot. And here I meet Prema and SSP, and then we visit the field. I said, hey, this is happening here, right here. Where was it all these years? So my thing is, I'm a bit angry that, the good work doesn't get its due until, it's been 20 years. This is like our response to BRAC model. Like, you don't have to build huge microfinance institutions to empower women. You could do an SSP and it could multiply everywhere. This is exactly what she keeps saying in every conversation I've had with her. She didn't care about companies. She didn't, that's what I understand. I wanted to talk to her about second line leadership. What about this? What about that? And said, group needs to, be viable. And I don't care about everything else. So everything is around community, and it can happen, and it is happening. So this is amazing. I believe even if 1/10 of our vision is translated into action, I think we'll be in a much better space as a country. So that's the second thing. We just had a panel with her and Nani and Iman from Egypt, and with his soft, straight face, a very, non-dramatic voice. With every sentence, she packs a punch. I remember taking notes in a conversation when we had with her, and by the time she was done, I had like 10 pages running with ideas and conversations and phrases and words. As Reshma and Cheetna ji has shared, there's so much that we need to unpack and see that where is she coming from? I believe it's very close to what Mahatma Gandhi would have done if she was a woman and if she really believed in group enterprises. So these two things. And then lastly, I'm Yashvi, of course, will add to that. I believe, if one were to ask me what an Ashoka Fellow look like, I think she is the one, she embodies that whole Ashoka-ness in her. It is not about her, it's about building people. It's about putting economic commerce, to work for community, not other way around. It is about being able to see that in a disaster-struck geography, you could really bring everything down to an agriculture and make a woman do 21 varieties of, food, grains in 1 acre of model. I think there's this interconnectedness I see, which kind of is like, why didn't we see this? That kind of aha, moment that we derive from that. I won't say much. I'm still processing. It just seemed like very personal to me for some reason since yesterday, as Sanjeev said. I do believe we have a lot to still learn from her. And then I think I agree, we're going to be talking about Prema for many, many years to go. So thanks for having us here, Manisha, today.
Thank you, Neelam. On that point that you raised about Prema's sense of humor, I remember an endearing moment when we were trying to get a auto to the airport. I was trying to, and she wanted, we were in Bombay and it was pouring, and then, we suddenly, after waiting and for about 30 minutes, there was an auto driver who came. She saw him and said, "Tum mein Rab dikhta hai." This was straight after the Shah Rukh Khan film that had launched called Rab Ne Bana Di Jodi, and there's this song, I don't know if you all know, "Tum mein Rab aap," or whatever, "Tum mein Rab dikhta hai." So yeah, that's who she was, and it was just never a dull moment with Prema. Yashvir, would you like to say something? And then we just invite others. I know that her Prema's cremation, the cremation is going to be about 15 minutes, so
Sure.
That's online. It's hard to say these things. Yashvir, yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Manisha, firstly, for holding this space. I believe this loss is certainly tremendous for the entire social entrepreneurship community. I remember when I joined Ashoka in 2015, and someone was onboarding me about social entrepreneurs in Ashoka network, and there were these 5-6 examples, and one of them was Prema ji and her model, and how she has built an institution. I think one of the key insights which Prema ji stood for, and which continuously kept reminding us at Ashoka also as a community, is how do you put women at the center of leadership at all levels. I know when a lot of times our teams want to have more women social entrepreneurs being inducted as part of Ashoka community, our teams reached out to her, and more than a mentor and guide, Prema ji was a friend as well, a very straight talker. I remember one of my conversations in a Delhi event where I was sharing about a young change maker program which we were building, and she was very straight in terms of some of the feedback, but also very curious, which is very classic of a social entrepreneur or a leader who's as much as honest, but also very mindful of learning about the thinking and what is the thought process behind what we were sharing. Since then, I believe in COVID, as Manisha was sharing, when we launched the accelerator, she was again a very sounding board who helped us think through some of the aspects on how the foundations of the accelerator should be laid, how putting different social entrepreneurs in a room would lead to a lot of collaborations, a lot of idea generation, and how our role has to be of a facilitator, of being that gardener who nurtures the entire garden, every plant, every small plant or big plant in the garden. So I believe this is certainly a huge setback for us, because we always looked up to her, reached out to her on WhatsApp, and she will be very responsive. And I just feel like all the values she lived for, all the ideas Prema ji stood for, have a lot to be achieved. And if all of us present here and our external other teams and members of the community could also take some of those ideas and become champions in our own way, I think it will be a great tribute to her. So as much as I could go on talking about how much, at least at a personal level, I have learned from Prema ji and what she stood for in her life, but still it will not do justice through words. So I'm just still reflecting and processing this entire loss. But I would just say that let's take this as an opportunity also to champion the ideas and the entire notion Prema ji stood for, and how we can ensure that that becomes a reality, not just in India but beyond. And for sure, her learnings which she shared with all of us will stay for the rest of our lives. So thank you, Manisha, again, and thank you to each one of you. And it also is a huge reminder that let's be kinder to ourselves, people around us, and let's just help each other in this journey of creating a better world, which we all strive for through our work, through our enterprises and organizations. So thank you once again.
Yashvir, thank you very much for centering that, for sort of bringing our attention and reminding us again about kindness, because the last 2 years have been incredibly difficult, and as an accelerator, we've all traveled through literally 3 waves of COVID, and the second was really brutal. And really, who would have thought that this is our last session of the accelerator? So who would have thought that we would be here? Our first conversation on the accelerator was with Prema. And there was something that Priya said. She just wrote saying, she had to drop off. She spoke about how, as a sector, there's so much to do and there's so much to respond. As leaders, we don't allow ourselves the time to be kind, to be vulnerable, to hold ourselves. And in many ways, we have this space, and really, we can't, we have to hold each other. There will be collaborations, there will be work, there will be, the rough and tumble of so much. But I think what Prema would want us to remember is that we have to stay as very good friends together. This accelerator, I think that was her message. Mukti, I know you are really heartbroken. I'll call on you, and after that, anybody else wants to say anything, please do unmute yourself. And this is just something we put together because there was a session that we had curated in a very, in the way we curate sessions. We will have another more organized, अच्छे से सुसज्जित तरीके से memorial for Prema. This is just for us to.
Thanks, Manisha. For me, the humanity of today, yesterday, and today it's weighing down on me like a cloud, because never realized that there would be a day when we would be mourning for another colleague, for an Ashoka Fellow, and for a partner in the journey that all of us have undertaken. So for me, yesterday when you called, it was quite shocking. I think I've known Prema for the last 15, 18 years, from the time we started our journey in health insurance. And I remember meeting her for the first time in Pune when at that time, all of us were trying to come together to create a health insurance program. And Prema was a proponent for a mutual, for a cooperative. And we had this huge gathering there. And then later, we formed a working committee and we kept meeting in Bombay and Pune and Hyderabad. And her experience and her straight talking many times would feel me reeling, like, is she a supporter or does she want me to get out of the room? And but at the same time, there were home truths which were told in a very direct fashion, in no nonsense, this is how it is, directly, and immediately followed by laughter and jokes. So, and that always left me for a minute wondering what it was, but at the same time knowing very well that she means what she says. There is nothing covering what she is saying. And the commitment that she had for the women, that Sakis that she has been working with, is unparalleled. And one of the things that I learned from her is fearlessness, and fearlessness not just in talking, but also trying new innovative things and believing in what one did. Even if it failed, even if it succeeded, it really did not matter. And the other thing which came to me from yesterday, I have been kind of, for the last few weeks from the time I've known about Prema's illness, I've been introspecting a lot. I've been thinking a lot. And of course, a lot of prayers. And one of the things is, it is time, like Priya said, that all of us bonded together beyond our work. We are only known as social entrepreneurs, but not as human beings, not as women, not as mothers, not as wives, not as daughters. I think we need to we get so consumed with what we do, we really don't take care of ourselves. Prema going away is also a lesson. She has left us with a lesson of the deep commitment, and also a lesson that she is imparting to us. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves and the organizations that you're leaving behind. She has built a great team. Upmanyu, we have been in contact with them for over 10 years. And Nazeen, we have got to know her through the accelerator. She has built a team. So I think that is another big lesson, takeaway for us, that it's important that we know that we are dispensable, that we are immortal, and we are not immortal. We are, after all, mortals. And we need to also build others within to be able to let the show go on. And today for me, when I was watching the funeral, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken for the women. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I could imagine the pain, the insecurity, and the loss they feel. I think they are the ones who feel the most, because nobody can replace Prema. Nobody can replace their leader. Nobody can replace what she has given all of us. So I wish I had known her more. I wish I had spent more time. But I think it is time for us to take that extra step and get to know each other more. Thank you. Thank you, Manisha, for organizing this.
Thank you, Mukti. Would anybody else like to share anything? It could be a memory, just how you're feeling. Okay, I know that. Chetna, would you like to say something?
No, I was thinking Devika is there, or
Yeah, and Devika worked with Devika. You worked with with Prema for a few years, right? I think Devika was here, and she may have left. Yeah. But Devika worked with Prema for a few years and had some really beautiful stories that she had shared with me. So that we'll definitely have her share them when we do another memorial. Chetna, you want to say something?
Mm.
So, this can go on. There was just so much support and outpouring, and we were all asking each other. So many of you here, as well as many on the WhatsApp group who are not here, were saying, "What can we do? How can we support SSP?" So there will be formal ways of doing it, and we can come together as groups. But I think for Upmanyu, Naseem, Gigi, right, Payal, you are there. I think each one of us just showing up and being there in many ways or in small ways, would mean really the world to them, because they grew up with Prema. Prema grew up with them. They grew up with Prema, and I think Payal, like we agreed, we were thinking. I mean, SSP was her family. We talk about how organizations are communities; they are not families, but she built a very large family. So I do know that it would mean the world for each and every member of SSP to just kind of hear from us. There was a poem that I had read after the second wave when we'd come together, and Prema had really asked for it. She had asked me to frame it and send it, and damn, I didn't frame it, I just sent it. But I just want to read that here. It's a poem that I'm sure you all are very familiar with. It's a poem called The River Cannot Go Back by Khalil Gibran. It is said that before entering the sea, the river trembles with fear. She looks back at the paths she has traveled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding roads crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter, there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there seems to be no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will the fear disappear, because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. So Prema is the ocean. And I think let's just, for all the love that Prema has given us, let's really commit to just being together for a very long time, forever as friends. And, becoming the ocean and not having that much fear, because we'll be together. So really, thank you very much. This is a session that I would have never wanted to anchor, but in many ways, I'm grateful that Prema encouraged us to create this space. Thank you so much. But we will do another memorial that would be. Prema would say, "Oh, shut up! I don't want so much attention." But we will come together again in a more organized way. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manisha.
Thank you.
thank you, Manisha. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chetna, for being here. Let's serve the world. Thank you. Thank you, Neelam.
Do take care, Nisha, and
You too, and all of you. We'll be in touch, Neelam. We'll do something together for Prema.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.